into 3 cycles. So if you're running 12 minutes, 3 cycles of 4 minutes each, 30 to 60 minutes apart, because we want the water to go into the soil so the plants can use it and not run off of the property. So if you water too much at once and you get runoff and it flows out into the public right-of-way, that could be a water waste violation.
Doug, with drip, one of the biggest mistakes most homeowners make is watering too often. What are some recommendations for dealing with plants on drip?
One of the big mistakes that people make with drip irrigation, number one, running it real frequently, right, on the same schedule as their sprinkler irrigation. Even worse, running at the same duration as their sprinkler system where they're putting down inadequate amounts of water. That's also a common mistake. So what I want to suggest to people is, as a rule of thumb, you're probably going to be running at least 3 times as long, but maybe 1/3 as often. So as we go into the fall, see if you can get by with 2 of those days. Maybe you're going to do Tuesday and Saturday and see if the drip irrigation holds up there. Watch your landscape for feedback. These plants are not the kind of plants that are going to drop dead overnight. Keep an eye on them, and then you can decide, do you want to extend the run time?
Early fall is often still warm, so water early in the morning to avoid water loss to evaporation or late day winds. Use a handheld hose to target stressed areas of your yard. It's much more efficient than running your entire system longer, and it's permitted under watering restrictions. Last but not least, take a few minutes each month to check your irrigation system for breaks and malfunctions. Look for broken, clogged, or misaligned sprinkler heads. Check your drip system for broken or clogged emitters and cracked or broken tubing, especially after summer. Cover exposed lines with mulch to protect them from both heat and cold. Finally, flush your drip lines through the end cap at least twice a year, in fall and spring. To find more seasonal watering tips, visit snwa.com.
Drip irrigation is the most efficient way to water plants, but many homeowners are running their drip systems too long and overwatering their landscapes. Plants do not need as much water as grass. In fact, plants can survive with even less water than restrictions require.
Can you explain drip irrigation to us? How does it work and why is it better for watering plants or trees?
So drip irrigation is the slow application of water directly to the roots of plants. If you compare it to a spray system, spray actually throws out a lot of water, a lot of area, a lot of wasted water. With drip, it's actually getting right to the plants, right to their root zone. So it's a more efficient way to water. It's healthier for the plants because the water is going directly down into the root zone. But the watering, how you do it is completely different. Like you spread it out, you do longer durations as opposed to spray. So drip is a much more efficient way to water because it's a longer duration that goes deep into the ground. So you don't lose water to evaporation or wind, any of those type of things that happen with a spray system. So it's healthier for the plants because the roots of the plants are farther down below the ground. So in our valley, in our climate, it is definitely the best way to water.
Fall restrictions allow customers to water 3 days a week, September through October. And while our grass may need those 3 days, plants that are watered by drip irrigation can also survive on less water. How often should drip users run their irrigation system for their plants or trees?
So when you're going into fall, what's happening is the days are still warm, but the nights are cooling down. And because of that, plants in general just need less water. So if in the summertime you've been watering 3 or 4 days a week with your drip system, in the fall you can start ramping that down to like 2 days a week. If you have more desert type plants like mesquites and palos and things that are kind of more desert adapted, you can start ramping those down to 1 day a week. So really you just kind of got to go with the weather. You kind of transition down, but you can definitely start reducing the watering, especially from our hot summers.
So how long should you run your drip system on the day or days that you're watering?
So first thing to understand is you kind of stay consistent throughout the year for how long you water. So when you go from summer to fall, say for example you're watering for 30 minutes, you would continue to water for 30 minutes. You're reducing the number of days. But what you want to look at is kind of the flow that's coming out of the actual drip irrigation heads. If the heads are kind of dripping, you just see drops, that's a lower flow head. And those you're going to probably run 45 minutes to an hour, longer durations. If it's kind of streaming out of the head, so it's a higher flow, then you would have a shorter run time, maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Because if you run it too long, then it can start to kind of basically come off the property. So you kind of want to look at those in addition to how often you're watering. So the thing just to remember for fall is that you're reducing the number of days. So even though the durations, you may be consistent with summer, you're knocking down the number of days again from like 3 days, 4 days, down to like 1 or 2 days.
Because water used for common area and streetscape irrigation cannot be recaptured, homeowners associations collectively consume far more water than the entire resort industry and almost as much as all of southern Nevada's golf courses combined. That's why the SNWA encourages HOAs to replace large areas of grass with water-smart landscaping. For a better understanding of our water conditions and how communities can conserve water, the SNWA offers a continuing education class for community managers and board members. Community managers are required to gather continuing education points in order to keep their certifications. The Community Association Institute has helped SNWA's course to get certified by the state of Nevada. During the training, the Water Authority gives attendees a water resource update and information on how HOAs can save water in their communities. The training is offered twice a year. The most recent session was hosted by the City of Henderson and drew nearly 50 HOA representatives. The grass is greener where you water it. In southern Nevada, grass uses 4 times as much water than a drought-tolerant landscape. Our goal is to trim water use by removing useless grass. The City of Henderson understands water is a precious resource and contributes to conservation efforts through big conversion projects.
A grassroots effort is underway in Henderson where communities and parks are removing water-thirsty grass that will save a combined 23 million gallons of water annually. That's enough water to supply 140 average homes for 1 year. About 60% of the community's water is used outdoors, a bulk of it on landscape irrigation. That's water that can't be recycled and returned to Lake Mead. The biggest water guzzler is grass. Reducing outdoor water use is an important conservation goal for southern Nevada. The SNWA estimates at least 5,000 acres of useless grass still exists in the valley, much of it owned by HOAs and businesses. If all the grass in our community were converted to water-smart landscaping, we could save more than 12 billion gallons of water each year. Communities like Green Valley Ranch and Foothills at McDonald Ranch are working toward this goal and replacing years-old grass with more desert-appropriate plants.
Green Valley Ranch has completed 15 turf conversion projects through the SNWA's Water Smart Landscapes rebate program. Since 2003, the master plan community has converted 242,000 square feet of grass to Water Smart landscaping. 95% of those were on streetscapes, medians, roundabouts, and entryways, saving an estimated 13 million gallons of water a year.
The Green Valley Ranch Master Association recently greenlit another conversion project to remove even more grass from its common areas. After completion this fall, GVR will be greener in its water conservation efforts.
Jocelyn, Green Valley Ranch has been removing turf through the SNWA's rebate program since 2003. How does the Master Association choose which areas in the community to take turf out and replace it with desert landscaping?
One of the first areas that we converted was all along Paseo Verde, and it was the streetscapes. There were very narrow bands of grass. There was water runoff into the street. So not only was the city of Henderson not happy with us with the water runoff, but neither were our residents. It's very distressing when you see water waste. And to keep that area green, we had to put a lot more water on it. So that was a natural for one of our first areas of conversion. Throughout the years, we've looked at other non-functional areas. For example, removing turf in a roundabout where you have traffic. You really don't want to encourage small children or people with pets to walk over there. There's plenty of other grass areas that they can take their animals. And also small areas of grass, a lot of them, again, adjacent to the streets, maybe not as narrow, but still in a more non-functional area, especially as the streets have gotten busier.
The overall goal for Green Valley Ranch is to be mindful of the community's water use, to reduce water waste with sprinkler irrigation, and save its residents on the costs associated with water bills and landscape maintenance.
Water is our most precious resource here in the valley, and that becomes more and more obvious with the lake levels dropping and having to put in the third straw, and every single resident sees increases in their water bills. I guarantee you multiply that by dozens, and that's what you get for the association water bill. It is one of our 3 top expenses for the ranch. So it's important, and we want to be good stewards here in the valley. And there's so many wonderful, colorful options that we can do. We really enjoy it to have a nice blended look to the ranch and be smart in conservation because we do live in a desert.
A few miles east of Green Valley Ranch, the foothills at McDonald Ranch removed more than 11,000 square feet of grass, with another 9,000 planned. Most of the grass along Stephanie and Horizon Ridge was replaced with artificial turf and drought-tolerant plants. The conversion is expected to save nearly 1.1 million gallons of water annually.
HOA landscapes have a significant impact on our valley's overall water use. And so non-functional grass that's located along roadways, in street medians, roundabouts, gated entryways, should all be considered for replacement with water-efficient desert landscaping. Converting grass to desert landscaping can save about 55 gallons per square foot of grass removed per year, which can add up to significant cost savings for the HOA. And so homeowners, board members, and their community managers can all work together to identify areas of non-functional grass that can be replaced with desert landscaping while at the same time maintaining their community's aesthetic appeal as well as property values.
While these two Henderson communities are replacing grass never used by its residents, the city is replacing its park's thirstiest turf with a far more water-efficient grass that can stand up to our valley heat. Doug, tell us about the conversion projects happening at various parks throughout the city of Henderson.
Well, SNWA approached us last September, and we feel like they're a great partner. And this is a water conservation project. And they asked us, are you interested in converting your fescue turf, which is a cool season high water use turf, to hybrid Bermuda, which uses less water than the fescue turf, and we like that idea. And so we have identified 10 parks that we're going to convert fescue turf to hybrid Bermuda. So it goes dormant in the winter, which is between November and March. So we don't mow it, we irrigate it once a month, so there's less maintenance on us. We're also saving water, which goes back into the water supply. And the hybrid Bermuda is a better turf for sports. The Las Vegas Aviators use hybrid Bermuda.
This project's unique because we're going to replace cool season grasses that are generally found in these parks now with warm season grasses that thrive in this environment. So for example, if you take your air conditioner, in the old technology used to be swamp coolers where it's very water intensive, and you're changing that out with a high efficiency air conditioner. So warm season grasses use less water. We save about 21 gallons per square foot. And then they thrive in this environment. They like it hot and they like it humid.
The city of Henderson is no stranger to turf conversions. It's removed a substantial amount of grass from older parks over the years and minimizes grass when designing new parks. Over the last 15 years, Henderson has removed 1.5 million square feet of turf, saving about 82 million gallons of water for our community.
We still provide recreational turf in our parks. It's just not as much as we did 20, 30, and 40 years ago. For example, Paradise Point Park has a nice postage stamp turf area that you can walk your dog, you can play frisbee, you can kick the soccer ball around. So we're not eliminating turf in our parks, we're just minimizing it. And the consequences of the water savings is huge. Just 22.4 million gallons in this project alone.
The Valley's largest water users are learning how to reduce their water footprint through an SNWA auditing program. Conservation staff has conducted nearly 120 site evaluations this year at homes of customers who have high water use for the size of their property compared to other properties in the Valley. Conservation evaluates everything from plumbing to irrigation systems to behavior, then provides recommendations the homeowner can implement to conserve water. The program is expected to save more than 4 million gallons of water a year. One of the SNWA's largest construction projects, the Low Lake Level Pumping Station, is inching closer to completion. Crews are now testing the submersible pumps that will ensure access to our community's drinking water supply, even as Lake Mead's water levels decline.
In the final sprint to completing the Low Lake Level Pumping Station at Lake Mead, crews are now energizing the underground pumps that will access water fed from intake number 3. The submersible pumps that have been installed so far are going through a series of rigorous tests to ensure they're capable of pumping up to 900 million gallons of water a day to SNWA's 2 water treatment facilities.
Peter, what exactly are we testing on these pumps?
The contractor is performing a 2-hour performance test to ensure that the pumps were installed properly and that they're operating similar to their characteristics when they were factory tested. The contractor has currently installed 30 of the 34 total pumps, and they've tested 20 of the pumping units. They plan to test the remaining pumps over the next several months, and later this year the contractor will perform a more extended testing of each of the pumping units and will be pumping water to the treatment plants to ensure the compatibility for delivery.
Pumping water from the nation's largest man-made lake is an enormous effort. Just how big and powerful are these pumps?
These pumps are the largest in the world in terms of lift and total flow. Each of the pumps can push 30 million gallons of water per day, lifting anywhere between 435 feet to 695 feet above ground. In total, this facility can move 900 million gallons per day of water to our treatment plant, lifting it up from 500 feet below ground to feed water to our community.
The $650 million pumping station will allow the Water Authority to keep drawing from the bottom of Lake Mead, even if the water level drops to dead pool, the point at which Hoover Dam can no longer release water downstream to Arizona, California, and Mexico. The pumping station is the final piece to the SNWA's response to the ongoing drought. Lake Mead's elevation has dropped more than 130 feet since 2000. In 2015, the Water Authority completed construction of the third intake, allowing the SNWA to draw water from the deepest depths of Lake Mead. When the low lake level pumping station is complete, the pumping station and the third intake will ensure continued access to the primary water source for the more than 2 million people who live and work in southern Nevada. There are a lot of moving parts to build the pumping station, but in the end, it will be able to pump water from Lake Mead to the SNWA's water treatment facility.
Yeah, all of these elements are critical in getting the water from Lake Mead to our community. 600 million gallons of water from this pumping station will move to our Alfred Merritt Smith water treatment facility, which is located right here on the shores of Lake Mead. The other 300 million gallons of water will be pumped to our River Mountains water treatment facility located in East Henderson.
Not far from the submersible pumps, construction continues on an electrical substation that will eventually power the pump station and serve as a backup power source for Lake Mead's other 2 intake pumping facilities. The low lake level pumping station will be operated and monitored by personnel on site and remotely. It will connect to the SNWA's water control network, through which highly trained operators control the facilities necessary to deliver water to the valley. They monitor flows, water levels, system pressures, and water quality through the entire distribution system. Scheduled for completion in 2020, the pumping station will play a critical role in maintaining reliable water infrastructure that can meet our community's water needs well into the future.
This facility and the third intake which supplies it has been developed through innovative works from world leaders in construction, underground construction, and pumping units themselves. So it's been a partnership that's been successful to ensure water delivered to our valley.
Local fire departments soon will reduce their non-critical water use during training exercises. The SNWA Board of Directors funded new water-efficient simulators designed to save up to 50 million gallons a year during critical routine training.
So what they do now is they have to run through several different scenarios. So for example, if they were running a scenario where a hose broke on the truck, they would have to simulate that. And the way they do that is they hook up hoses to the water and they run water out onto the ground. And this is important training, so they need to do this. However, these new simulators, they can simulate a broken hose, or they can simulate a pump going bad or losing their source. They can simulate each one of those. And the water savings is about a little over 3,300 gallons per firefighter or per engineer that's going through the training. So over time, through all the departments, we'll save about 150 acre-feet of water.
The simulators feature a new closed-loop system that recirculates water back to the tank, eliminating any water sprayed onto the ground during firefighter training activities. Landscapes can take a beating from the intense summers in southern Nevada. As temperatures retreat in fall, give your plants and irrigation systems some extra attention to keep your landscape healthy through the seasonal transition.
Finally, the worst of the heat is over. It's fall and cooler temperatures have arrived. Everybody's breathing a sigh of relief, and even your landscape plants are growing again, and you're seeing a lot of new flowers develop. Fall is really like the second spring here in the desert. And with the cooler temperatures, watering restrictions have come into place. You're only allowed to water 3 days a week. And remember, Sunday is not an optional watering day. Fall is a great time of year to get some projects done around your garden. You can start off by doing light pruning around your yard. Anything that may have gotten overgrown during the summertime can be pruned back, but do not do any heavy pruning. Wait till winter to do heavy pruning. Because there's a lot of new growth around, fall is a good time of year to do some fertilizing. Especially September is a great month to get some fertilizers going. At the Springs Preserve, we tend to use organic fertilizers like the blood meal and bone meal set out here. Blood meal is almost entirely nitrogen, and bone meal is almost entirely phosphorus. When you mix the bone meal and the blood meal together, you get a full spectrum fertilizer. Other organic fertilizers that you can use consist of natural products like bat guano or worm castings or fish emulsions. These are really great products. They can contain a lot of different small micronutrients as well as the main three, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. On the other hand, chemical fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers like the blue cup here, these contain chemical salts. If you think about it, our landscape has generally salty water, and we also have salty soils in the desert. So when you're adding a salty fertilizer to this mix, you can damage your plants with too much salt. You can use the chemical fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers, just use them sparingly. We find in the garden that we get a lot better results when we use the organic fertilizers. Fall is a great time of year. You need to be harvesting all of your summer vegetables and planting your winter garden right now. You can grow a lot of great greens in the winter time, lettuces and spinach. You can also grow all the cabbage family plants, broccoli and cauliflower and kale. Plant those in the fall, harvest them all winter long. Fall is a great time to be planting your landscape plants as well. At the Springs Preserve, we have a fall plant sale. You can purchase plants at our plant sale, some unique and interesting plant material for your home garden. Fall is a great time to also be planting spring wildflowers and spring blooming fall bulbs. In fact, a really great tip is if you go to your trees and shrubs, find some emitters down there and dig them up, and you can plant some of those fall bulbs there. They'll bloom in the springtime, and you can also sprinkle some wildflower seeds in that area. If you do that, these plants will grow strong through the wintertime and bloom in the springtime. These are plants you need to plant in the fall. You cannot plant them in the spring. After summer, you've been using your irrigation system really extensively. This is a good time to check your system, make sure that nothing has gotten broken during the summertime and it's still functioning very well through the fall weather. Since fall is such a great time for planting, you can use the SNWA Plant Search feature to find all sorts of different plant material that does well in Las Vegas.
There are more ways to save, so join us next time here on Waterways. If you'd like to share your conservation efforts at home, contact us at Waterways, 1001 South Valley View Boulevard, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89153. Or send us an email through our website at snwa.com. We may feature your story. For more how-to videos and tips to conserve and care for our water, connect with us on social media. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time, right here on Waterways.
Las Vegas may shine 24 hours a day. But on Halloween night, it's best to be inside by 9 for your own good.
Oh, my little pretties, she's no fun.
Get your night started early. Never trick-or-treat alone, cross only at corners, and always look both ways. Only visit homes with the porch light on. Remember, there's no place like home for trick-or-treaters. Have a safe holiday and be inside by 9.
Hello, I'm Clark County Commissioner Lawrence Weekly. The Department of Family Services works tirelessly to ensure every child thrives in a safe, loving, and supportive home. But we cannot do it alone. We need the entire community to come together to support our children and their families as they work towards becoming whole again. To learn more on how you can support our children in need, call 702-455-0181 or visit countmein.Vegas.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Our community, our home, Clark County, Nevada. Thanks for watching Clark County Television, the best access to your local government.
Hello, I'm Randy Swallow. Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. For the next half hour, we're going to talk county issues, District F issues, and we'll be joined by a special guest, a councilman from the city of Las Vegas later on. But first of all, we'd like to welcome District F Commissioner Justin Jones. Good morning, Commissioner.
Thanks, Randy.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent, excellent. We're here at Area 15, described as an experiential retail and entertainment complex and much more. Area 15 is near Interstate 15 and Desert Inn Road and adjacent to this part of District F, which includes the master plan communities of Summerlin, Mountain's Edge, and Southern Highlands. Rural towns are part of this vast district: Blue Diamond, Sandy Valley, all the way to Jean, Prim, and the California border. Here's a quick look in your neighborhood, District F. District F is home to the newest downtown in Clark County, downtown Summerlin. The county's largest master plan community has developed a couple million square feet for dining, shopping, entertainment, and more in a mixed-use, fully walkable marketplace. Other major game-changing private businesses choosing to slide into District F include the swimmingly successful Wet n Wild Water Park. And expect furniture fans to flock to the iconic blue and yellow behemoth IKEA store near the 215 Beltway in Durango, a Swedish-designed retailer that is the world's largest. And another master-planned neighborhood, Mountain's Edge, continues to rise in District F. Thousands of residents now enjoy recreating at Phase 1 of the newly opened Mountain's Edge Regional Park, with some of the coolest facilities in town. Desert Breeze Regional Park continues to be one of the best, with an indoor-outdoor aquatic center and hundreds of acres of green space and more. And the rural portions of District F include Sandy Valley, Blue Diamond, Good Springs, and Jean, lending a slice of the slower lifestyle compared to the fast-paced urban growth for residents and businesses in District F. Commissioner, we're here at Area 15. Meow Wolf is one of the main tenants here, and this is really a difficult place to explain, and it's going to be an amazing place. We've all driven past it 100 times along I-15, and anybody that knows a little bit about this place it's just going to be wild. Another great non-typical tourist attraction to our community.
Absolutely, it's an exciting project, something new for our community. It really combines retail and art space, and I think it'll be not just something great for our tourist population coming here, but also something really cool for locals. They have a real commitment to getting into our school system and supporting the arts in our school system.
And maybe years ago, a place like this would have had to have been, on Fremont Street, on the strip, or in the resort corridor. So this is bringing some economic activity, jobs on construction jobs now, permanent jobs on the back end, to a different part of our community.
Absolutely. I think it's great that we have the opportunity to invest in some areas that are a little bit out of the norm. In the boom and bust cycle that we have here, this was one of those areas that was going to be for yet another condo tower, and that never really worked out. And so to see it used for what it's going to be used for, I think is really exciting for our community.
I know these people are excited, and there's just some amazing, as they call it, it's an immersive experience. We're going to hear the music and interactive shops and art and the creative geniuses out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Meow Wolf is the main tenant here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Commissioner, I know you were in Washington, D.C. for a couple different things, meeting with our congressional delegation about economic development, about developing places like this, and conservation. What did you get out of those meetings?
Well, it was a great opportunity. It's my first time going to D.C. with the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. That was one of the boards I really want to be on because I really am interested in economic development. But I know we're going to talk about collaboration with the city. This was the first time that the LVGA collaborated with the Metro Chamber for their DC fly-in. So there was a lot of great discussions that were had between the business community, elected leaders, and our congressional delegation in Washington, D.C. About how do we continue the prosperity and make sure that we implement exciting new ideas around transportation-oriented development and continuing the I-11 corridor that is critical for our community here, and just making sure that we're planning for the future.
Commissioner, I know you also, about a month or so ago, you sat on a panel for reducing Clark County's carbon footprint and sustainability and everything like that, something that you are very much a champion of and want to up Clark County's game in that regard. Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. So I think that the county has done some fantastic things when it comes to sustainability, but I think that there's some opportunities now to step it up. You've seen the City of Las Vegas. I know we'll hear from Councilman Knudsen later, but I've seen City of Las Vegas, City of Henderson step up their game when it comes to sustainability and commitment to renewable energy. And I think it's really an opportunity right now for the county to do the same and to make sure that we are moving towards a carbon-free economy here in Southern Nevada.
I think you were maybe even surprised that there is no Office of Sustainability in Clark County. There's no full-time employees that actually tackle this. This is something you'd like to see changed.
Sure. We have an Office of Sustainability, but unfortunately it's just a great person in our planning department who was given the additional, voluntold to handle the additional responsibility of keeping track of sustainability. I think it's really time for us to step up and make sure we get back to an earlier time where we had a true dedicated person who was focused on sustainability and make sure that we can talk about a climate action plan like the city of Reno recently implemented.
Commissioner, I know you and your colleagues recently had a sales tax increase, which generally people do not like, of course, and it was 1/8% tax, which you helped. At one point they were talking about a 1/4% sales tax, and this actually started as a fairly historic dialogue between the Board of County Commissioners and the Clark County School District to improve the future of K-12 funding. Sure. But it evolved from there. Bring us up to date on what these tax dollars could be used for and what your vision is.
Sure. So the legislature in this last legislative session empowered Clark County to take a look at up to a 1/4 sales tax for not just education, but a lot to do with wraparound services, truancy, homelessness, and workforce training. All of those go into improving our community here and supporting our school system. And so we are looking, and in particular, at making sure we reduce absenteeism. We have schools here in our community that have 40%, 50% of kids on a daily basis who aren't in school. And that will unfortunately result later on in them entering our juvenile justice system many times. And so we want to make sure that we get in there and work with folks, with families on the front end to make sure that they succeed and don't end up in our juvenile justice and criminal justice system.
And could this sales tax be used for anything else other than education?
Absolutely. So it's like I said, we have the opportunity to look at affordable housing, at homelessness, which we're already devoting a lot of dollars to right now, because those all go into education. You can't be a successful student if you don't have a stable home to go to every day. And so I think that we're really looking at how the county does some things really well and how we can use those things that we do really well, like our award-winning harbor program, to support our education system.
Let's shift gears a little bit, Commissioner. Let's talk a little bit about short-term rentals. We've actually toured some of your District F, and the party house proliferation is an issue, and I'm sure people at neighborhood meetings tell you that. Obviously, the Clark County Code Enforcement, they have a street team, the short-term education enforcement team out there doing things, but this is a problem that seems to be proliferating.
It's obviously a big deal. When you look at Airbnb, it lists 6,000 to 7,000 properties that are available as short-term rentals, and there's some folks that may be doing it well, but they are doing so illegally. This has been illegal in the county for more than 20 years, and it's an opportunity for us to take a look at what we're doing and continue to improve. So last year, for example, the County Commission devoted additional resources to make sure that we can address needs on weekends and at night where they didn't have folks who could do that. And then this last month, we also changed our ordinance to allow for the fines that we've been assessing to be moved over onto the tax rolls. So a lot of times what you have is you have a short-term rental operator who is fined for operating illegally, but they don't care. They're making so much money every week by renting out these party houses that they don't have to worry about whether there's been fines. And so this will at least give us an additional enforcement tool.
Commissioner, I know you live in the Mountains Edge area. Let's talk a little bit about that part of District F. Sure. And I know you recently, there's a much needed road, one of many road improvement projects, widening of Durango from Blue Diamond to Windmill. This is going to help people and travel across the southwest part of the valley.
Absolutely. So, we have this situation in the southwest part of town where we have development that's been there for a long time. And then sort of a leapfrog where we have airport flyover land and some rural neighborhood preservation, and then we have the master plan communities of Southern Highlands, Mountains Edge, and Rhodes Ranch. And unfortunately that means that when folks want to get from one side of the valley to the other, it's challenging. And so Durango has been a priority of the folks in the Southwest for a long time, and I'm very happy to say that it's happening and will be completed in the spring. And there's going to be additional projects that are coming online in the next year or two to make sure that people can get where they want to go.
Part of the Spring Valley 5-year project list, some 40 roadway projects. Many of those will be in District F. When two things, short term, that means there's going to be construction of Norring cones and irate motorists, but long term, we've got safer streets and much easier travel time.
For sure. Obviously, nobody loves the cones, but I think that if people know that in 7-8 months, they can actually get from A to B in an orderly fashion, then that's what they want to see.
Part of the overall county planning starts at the township level, at the planning level, and I know enterprise land use is something that must be updated every few years. You're right in the middle of this. You're holding public meetings. What type of feedback? What do you want to see this area look like?
Well, I think what I want it to look like is what the people in my district want it to look like, and that is more orderly development. I think too often we have non-conforming zone changes that come before us on the zoning commission. People complain about spot development, that it seems to change on a daily or weekly basis. And I think the master plan is really the opportunity for the community to come and express their opinions at open houses. We're coming up on the second of 3 open houses. To make sure that we do it in an orderly way.
One component I know you'd love to see in that part of Clark County is improved public transportation. It's almost a public transit desert, I read somewhere.
Yep.
But talk to me about that.
Sure. So we haven't had really much in the way of new bus service for quite some time in Southern Nevada. The RTC continues to operate with a dwindling transit budget. Most transit operators around the country run a deficit, and so we have to look at additional opportunities for funding transit. About half of my district, about 175,000 people, don't have access within a mile of any public transit whatsoever, and it's a problem because it's not just people who want to ride the bus to go to work. It's also paratransit is tied to the fixed lines, and so. I have people on a regular basis who are looking for opportunities to get from their homes to facilities, and they can't do so through public transit. And so that is a priority of mine. I am optimistic in my discussions with RTC that there'll be some improvements, some expansion in the next year.
All right, we'll look forward to that. We must take a short break. We'll continue in your neighborhood with District F Commissioner Justin Jones. Stay tuned.
I think I'd be locked up right now if it weren't for the harbor.
Fighting drug or alcohol use and changes in behavior are all warning signs that a youth may need help.
I got in a fight and got expelled from school, and my mom took me to the harbor for help.
The harbor is a safe haven for troubled kids and their families. The goal is to give them resources so problems don't escalate. We know kids in crisis can become adults in crisis. prevention, and early intervention work.
They help me get my life back on track. Sometimes you just need a fresh start.
The Harbor offers hope and second chances.
Welcome back to In Your Neighborhood. We are joined by a special guest, City of Las Vegas Ward 1 Councilman Brian Knudsen. The councilman was elected earlier this year after working for the state and in Las Vegas city government for more than 15 years. Ward 1 is located primarily in the central part of the valley, some of which overlaps Commission District F. Are you confused? Well, we've got some answers and the gentlemen that represent these areas here. Councilman, collaboration between the city and the county is something that it doesn't seem to be necessarily a new chapter, and it's not like there's been a bad relationship between the two jurisdictions, but you want to take it to a different level and collaborate on many issues such as transportation, homelessness, and tourism, which affects everybody.
Yes. Yeah, and I appreciate being on the show, and thank you to the commissioner and you, Randy, for letting me be here. This area overlaps, and so what I've learned campaigning was a new experience for me, but knocking on doors, what I found is that people didn't know if they lived in the city or the county, and I feel it's my job to represent their interests, and they don't care if they're City of Las Vegas residents or county residents, and technically they're both. And so I think it's incumbent upon myself to reach out and extend the olive branch, and while it may not be a bad relationship, we can make it a lot better. And so whether it be around transportation or homelessness or arts and culture, I'm grateful to sit here today because I think it signifies to our community that the city and county can work together, and there's lots of opportunities. So I'm excited to talk about that, and having almost a brand new commission, there's lots of opportunities, and now that we have a brand new city council too.
3 new commissioners, 3 new city councilmen. Commissioner, how do you answer that same question when people say Clark County, City of Las Vegas, jurisdictional boundaries? How do you answer that type of?
Well, same experience as Brian. When I've talked to folks, they don't know nor do they care whether they're in the City of Las Vegas. They just want to have their concerns heard and addressed. And so if someone calls my office and they have a concern, and they live in the City of Las Vegas. Most of my district is unincorporated Clark County, but I do share part of my district with Councilman Knudsen. And so we just need to work together to make sure that whatever their concerns are, that we address those concerns, and we need to do it in a collaborative way. Too often we get into these turf wars, and the turf wars are dumb, and it's time to move on from there and to make sure they're working together.
This being one of the places, this Area 15 is actually going to be a City of Las Vegas, a tourism improvement district. What does that mean, Councilman?
So essentially it's a designation from the state and the county and the city that would allow for the revenue that's generated here, the taxes associated with it, to be reinvested back into the property. So that it makes it appropriate for this developer to come in and build an amazing structure like this. It makes it financially prudent for them to do so. And the goal is to bring more people into Las Vegas, people from outside of the valley spending money, money that can be reinvested back into the community, back into schools, back into parks, back into our public safety systems. So that's the goal of the City of Las Vegas, is to bring more people into the valley. It benefits everybody by making this a special tax improvement district. It brings incentive to the developer to do something like this.
As far as the homeless situation goes, Commissioner, this obviously is a regional problem, and the county has done a few things this summer and this spring to help spend some money to help eliminate that problem. How can we work with the city and other jurisdictions to help tackle homelessness?
Well, obviously the county has invested about $12 million additional dollars from what we're already investing through social services in addressing our homeless issue. But again, homelessness is not a city or county issue. It's something that we have to work on together. One of the first things I did when I came into office, the county, was to go to the city's courtyard project to meet with then Councilman Bob Coffin and bring together my staff and his staff to really talk through some of the concerns that we had and look at opportunities for working with the city on its courtyard project, but also in improving our available services. So we're excited for the opportunities. The legislature also chimed in this last legislative session and asked for the cities and the county to work together towards a regional approach to homelessness, and we've designated our representatives for that committee, that task force, and we're looking forward to making sure that we work together on this.
Let's talk a little bit about the medical district, which I know is in Ward 1. You've obviously got the Rubo Center, the dental school, and UNLV's medical school coming on board, which is very exciting, and it's nice to have these things in an area. And again, this is in the city, but again, a county resident, a Henderson resident, they don't care where this is located, right?
Yeah, and I can talk about the medical district because it does relate to homelessness and it relates to the city-county collaboration. Yesterday, the medical district board, which I am now the chairman of as of yesterday, we talked through what the most significant challenges are to growing the medical district. And land use is a part of that. So when you get developers in a room, you get the folks who represent the medical district in a room, what they talk about is consistent land use and zoning application across the valley. It makes it easier to develop, and that's one of the areas that I think the city and county can work towards. They also, in that medical district meeting, they talked about the need for social service systems and medical practitioners to deal with mental health issues. That's the biggest challenge I think our community is facing, is this lack of available resources for mental health and substance abuse. And so we see a growing number of homeless individuals on the streets, and we need to provide resources for them so that they can come out of that situation and into housing. That's where the city and county can really work together, is making sure the practitioners are available, the mental health professionals, the substance abuse professionals, and develop a regional strategy around that approach, as well as sheltering and housing individuals. That has everything to do with the medical district, city-county collaboration, and the homeless situation.
Well, I think definitely the county has a vested interest in the medical district of succeeding. UMC Hospital is a county-run hospital, and we have invested a lot of resources into that facility, and will continue to invest a lot of resources in that facility, and making sure that it provides the high level of service that it has for our valley. It's the only level 1 trauma center in not just Southern Nevada, but the entire region. And we need to make sure that we work together to make sure it succeeds and serves the needs of our population.
Project I know that is coming on board in the city is some 480 affordable housing units a little bit further up the street from there, Decatur and Alta. How will this housing stock help homeless or anyone involved in this situation, Councilman?
Right, so that's one of the most controversial issues that I'm dealing with now, because I couldn't vote on that issue because Nevada Hand was a prior client of mine in my prior life to running for office. I think it's a really good addition to our community. It is 480 units, 240 are senior housing, 240 are multifamily housing, right on the corner of Alta and Decatur and Meadows and Decatur. I can tell you that it's really great for our community, but it's also a drop in the bucket. So as of right now, there's about 155,000 people waiting for housing units. 480 units is a drop in the bucket. And so that's where it really requires some city, county, and state coordination around where we're going to have housing units throughout our valley to accommodate the growing need of people who need homes. It's complicated because the folks that I'm dealing with, the neighborhoods in the Alta Decatur area, they're scared to have low-income housing. I like to refer to it as attainable housing. But attainable housing right now is appropriate for teachers. Teachers making $45,000 a year will qualify to live in an attainable housing unit. And so we need to understand what our population looks like and what our population will look like 10 years from now, and start growing our community to look and reflect what our population is.
A little bit earlier, the commissioner and I talked about short-term rentals in Clark County. I know that's an issue, obviously, in the city. The city has changed their rules and regulations at the beginning of this year. Bring us up to date on that and how big of a problem it is in Ward 1 or across the city.
It's definitely the most controversial thing that I talk about, and it comes up every single day. The city currently has a ban in effect, although there are still some illegally operating short-term rentals. I lived next to a short-term rental. It was, when the ban went into effect, it turned into a single-room occupancy, which is also not desirable for our neighborhoods. The challenges that Ward 1 faces is we have neighborhood associations which don't have strict rules in effect, and so you have the ability for a short-term rental operator to come in and operate under the radar. The city's done a good job at enforcing, but I think the challenge for me is recognizing that that is a business and an industry that does exist. We don't want it to go underground. We need to understand what it is, work with it, but also maintain and preserve our neighborhoods as they exist. It's a very complicated issue. Nobody wants it in their backyard. The county, I think, just banned short-term rentals.
We have a ban in place for more than 20 years, but I think part of the confusion is that when someone goes on Airbnb and looks for a short-term rental, it says Las Vegas, and so there are 6,000, 7,000 potential units, but it's impossible to tell whether they're in the city of Las Vegas or in unincorporated Clark County, and so enforcement is a continuing issue, and making sure that we're able to work together on that.
And I can tell you, in the neighborhood, in my neighborhood, there's owners that have come in and subdivided garages so they can put more people in, and so it's created really not great living experiences for the neighbors around them. And so I think my job is to make sure that we can enforce appropriately and limit the number of short-term rentals. It also impacts our hotel industry. We want to protect our hotel industry, as that's a major driver of our economy.
All right. Well, we sure appreciate you being here, Councilman. And I know we could talk for another hour or so, but thank you for telling us about the collaboration between the city and the county and some of the issues that face all of us here in Clark County.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Commissioner Jones, for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. We must take a short break. We'll continue in your neighborhood with District F Commissioner Justin Jones. Stay tuned.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
District F is home to the Desert Breeze Regional Park Community and Aquatic Center. This is the second largest regional park in Clark County, and a number of present-day improvements are ongoing. This place is a hub of activity with places to play nearly every team sport. This is the site of one of the county's first ever dog parks, and dogs are the special invited guests during the last day of outdoor pool season. The Indoor Aquatic Center offers year-round classes, water aerobics, and free swim opportunities. Many outdoor events and concerts take place here, but the wide open spaces provide plenty of space for a picnic, a stroll, or just a quiet time under a shade tree. Desert Breeze is located at DI and Durango in District F, and speaking of District F, we're talking with the man that represents the area, your Commissioner, Justin Jones. Just down the street from Desert Breeze is now Little Ethiopia on Decatur, a new cultural designation. Talk to me about that, Commissioner.
Absolutely. So my friend and colleague from the Assembly reached out to me and suggested that we have a designation for Little Ethiopia. And there wasn't any policy in Clark County for how to designate those types of areas. And so we had the opportunity to bring it up, and we'll be advancing a policy for designating cultural areas like Little Ethiopia. Assemblyman Asefa has really been spearheading that effort. I'm proud to be working with him. If you ever had Ethiopian food, it's tremendous, it's delicious, and I think we have an opportunity to really highlight the cultural resources that we have here in Southern Nevada, and I think it will just lead to other important areas. Obviously, we have Spring Mountain just down the road from where we are right now. That has always been a cultural hub for Asian American communities, and I think this will give an opportunity to other cultural communities to really highlight their resources.
And a couple parks coming in your district, Commissioner, the Patrick and Teepee Park. I know you've held a number of meetings out there. It's going to be a 10-acre park, some amazing amenities, but again, going to the community to help them design, give you a few other ideas of what should be in that park?
Sure. We've already had 2 community meetings. People have got the opportunity to actually vote for the equipment, for the facilities that they want to see out there. That particular park is exciting because there's an existing wash that runs through it. And so rather than just pave over it or put grass over it, we're really working hard to incorporate that in as a feature so that if you take your kids to the park, it'll have some interpretive information over there to learn about our interesting system of flooding and washes here in Southern Nevada.
And on the other, something a little bit higher, I know you've got the Southwest Ridge Park and Trails, which is about 40% complete here, and I think people are going to be amazed by the scenic vista and how that's going to be one of the most beautiful parks in our entire valley.
Absolutely. So a lot of times we have our parks and they're fairly flat. This is going to be an exciting one where we incorporate in the hillside, we incorporate in trails that will go and you can do a nice loop up into the surrounding mountains in the southwest part of town. and really looking forward to that being a resource for folks to go and enjoy our trail system.
Thank you for bringing us up to date. I know we could talk for another hour or so, but we'll let you get back to work. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Randy.
That wraps up this edition of In Your Neighborhood. Thanks to Las Vegas City Councilman Brian Knutson for joining us. We appreciate our friends here at Area 15 for hosting us, and Commissioner Justin Jones for taking time to tell us about the area he calls home and represents as your elected official, District F. If you have any questions about this show or ideas for upcoming segments in your neighborhood, call me. I'm at 702-455-6357 or send an email to rsw@clarkcountynv.gov. Thanks for tuning in to Clark County Television. On behalf of our production staff, I'm Randy Swallow. We'll see you again next time in your neighborhood.
Our community, our home, Clark County, Nevada. Thanks for watching Clark County Television.
Straight ahead on UMC Digest, from the UMC Trauma Center, meet a woman who was shot 14 times and lived to tell her story. Plus, this woman tried dying multiple times, but the team here at the UMC Trauma Center had better ideas. Her story and more as the UMC Digest starts right now. Welcome to this edition of UMC Digest. I'm Danita Cohen. On today's show, we're bringing you the unforgettable stories of 3 of our patients who have come to the UMC Trauma Center with horrendous injuries. And not only did they live to tell their story, they're now thriving after those injuries because of the care they received here at UMC. We'll start with a young woman named Desiree, who was transported to us with what could have been deadly injuries. Here's her story.
I was with some friends. We were driving down a dirt road, and the driver was going 70 and, is it fishtailing? He was fishtailing, and he went over the side of the dirt, and I just remember just closing my eyes and holding onto the door.
Desiree wasn't wearing her seatbelt when the driver lost control of the car, flipping it 3 times, with Desiree from the back seat flying out of the window.
Because I was telling them, I can't breathe, I'm afraid I'm gonna die, I don't wanna die.
I think she was flown to Sunrise originally, which another hospital across the way, and then they realized how injured she was and then sent her right over to UMC.
UMC is home to Nevada's only Level 1 trauma center, providing the most advanced critical care in the state, with specialists standing by around the clock to care for injuries like Desiree's. Her most critical injury was a tear in her bronchus.
It's your breathing windpipe, and then it goes to your right and left, and her left one just was not connected to the main portion anymore. And majority of these people that have that injury are not surviving. That usually gets torn with other important things like your heart or your aorta, the big blood vessel out of your heart. And so oftentimes that's what we find on a coroner report, not really on a live patient.
It's called the quiet room, and that's where they, tell you that things aren't looking good, and your daughter's not probably going to make it.
I talked to multiple specialists. I talked to Dr. Robert Winsek, who is one of the best surgeons I've ever met. We ended up having to place the stents that we had tried. That was still not working for her. And then we had the discussion of if this lung is not functioning at all, then we would possibly have to remove it. So when you remove a lung in the trauma setting, if we had done that the first night when she arrived, it carries a very high mortality rate, a death rate. So majority of times if you take a lung out right away, if somebody's not compensated, they usually will die.
You have the shock. No, you're kidding. It didn't happen. Then the second one is you have switch, what I call switch, where you pray to switch places. Can it be me? And you go through those emotions. And then third, you develop anger. Whoever did this needs to pay. you want retribution, and you're just so mad. And then you go through the guilt. Why did we let her go? It was a school night. How dare her try to go out at 6 p.m. with friends to a football game? After the guilt, then you start seeing the love and support of your family.
That surgery was a success, and Desiree recovered at UMC and was eventually able to go home. But soon after, things took another turn for the worse.
And that's when she told me, "Mom, I'm scared. It's hard to breathe."
When she arrived here the second time, my another colleague, Dr. Jamie Rand, was on and pulled every possible resource in the world to save her life that night. She was actively trying to die. She was the sickest person in the hospital by far. She was on very specialized ventilators that we reserve for people that are almost needing to have cardiac bypass machine, heart-lung machine to oxygenate because of such a poor ability of her lung to function. She was essentially living on one lung. Her right lung was the only one that was working, at which point then that also got pneumonia and sick, and so now she was kind of running on almost no lungs.
Desiree would need another complicated surgery at the hands of Dr. Winsek and Dr. Fraser. It was her only option.
It's the worst and the scariest thing I had ever gone through in my entire life. So I was trying to get outside, and I'm bawling, I'm shaking, I'm uncontrollably crying. And I'm reached out by a very beautiful woman. She's my angel. She always will be. She asked me if I was okay. I said no.
Crystal's angel is Jennifer, a member of the UMC Experience team.
I went in to get a coffee after I left her office, and I ran into Gloria at the Starbucks area. Ordered my coffee. She wouldn't let me pay. She insisted on having another employee ring it up and take the money out of her pocket and pay for my coffee that day. Not only did she give me a coffee, she came around the side, gave me a hug that I needed, and didn't ask any questions, just said, "We're family, we're here for you. You need anything, you let me know."
I think there is a reason why every individual was put in the place to take care of her. From the guard up front, not allowing the weirdos in the back, to the nurses who were so attentive to Desiree's every need and care. She was constantly monitored by two, to even the janitorial staff. I mean, there's not one person who didn't make a difference.
Back in the operating room, another difference was being made.
So when she required that additional surgery, after we had discussed, Dr. Winsek was there and discussed with the family about the possibility of needing to remove that lung. Once we did go to the operating room, we opened her chest to see that her lung was not functioning, and it was actually filled with infection and just was not inflating like a normal lung. So we opted to remove the entire lung. Once we did that, she miraculously, on her blood gases and all this stuff, just turned around. So she was basically living with kind of rolling around on a flat tire that was just not functioning at all. And once we got rid of that, she was her oxygen levels and all that stuff turned around. We were able to get her off the ventilator and then eventually get her out of the hospital.
Once that lung was out, Desiree slowly began to recover again.
She had a really rough road, as you can imagine, the intensity of what her body went through, and infections and skin changes, and urine infections and colon infections, and every possible thing that a patient can have to get faced with, she got faced with, and she overcame it. So that's hats off to her for just being such a fighter, and then knowing that her parents were right behind her the whole way. You could just tell, it's just palpable in the room, and I truly believe that definitely helped her.
Dr. Fraser was here every day, and if he wasn't, he checked on Desiree every day. He took her case very personal.
I think he's amazing for being able to do what he can, and I've researched him, so I know more of the stuff he does, and it's just kind of crazy. He put because my scar is not that big, he just put his big hand in there, and it's just that long.
Desiree recently walked back into UMC Trauma to thank her life-saving team.
Hi, how are you? I took care of you and room with you. I was there when you first got out of bed.
Like, thank you for like helping save my life, because like I shouldn't have made it multiple times.
Well, like I said, we deal with a lot of sick patients and a lot of people that are on that cliff ready to fall off and die, and we kind of grab them and pull them back. And I mean, she had all hands on deck holding her to pull her back from that.
When we come back, we'll introduce you to Cheyenne, a woman who was shot 14 times in her own home. She's now back home thanks to the care she received here at the UMC Trauma Center. Her story on the other side of this break.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
There's no time for downtime. Better get better, quick. UMC Quick Care has locations all across the valley, and you never need an appointment. So get in and get better. UMC Quick Care.
Can't move.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
There's no time for downtime. Better get better, quick. UMC Quick Care has locations all across the valley, and you never need an appointment. So get in and get better. UMC Quick Care.
Can't move.
You never know when you can't really see whoops, coming. And sometimes you just can't avoid the old. Life is full of surprises. So when life pulls up, get to UMC Quick Care. For life's bumps and breaks, sneezes and wheezes, one of our Valley locations is ready and waiting to save the day. So you can get in, get out, get better, quick. UMC Quick Care.
Welcome back to UMC Digest. Today we're sharing stories of survival, hope, and healing from the UMC Trauma Center. Our next story is about a woman who was shot 14 times in her own home while her children were inside. Here's what happened, and here's how well she's doing now.
Squeeze hard.
Cheyenne Briggs lives a lot more peaceful life now than the one she was unfortunately getting used to. She admits she had been a victim of domestic violence for years. The screaming, yelling, and bruises culminated in one horrible night and injuries that would change her life, yet also put her on a safer and more joyful path.
I was in the living room watching, I was actually watching Chicago Med, one of my favorite shows. I was watching that. I started doing laundry. So I, yelled down the hallway, hey, can you make the bed, to my boyfriend at the time so that we can go to bed. And he just starts going off, cursing me out. Why are you always bothering me? You were up there the whole time.
Cheyenne was unfortunately numb to the ongoing emotional abuse, but this time things escalated and she decided to leave the house to let things cool down.
And I was only gone for maybe 10 minutes at the most, I think. So I came back home and I noticed his motorcycle was gone. We both rode motorcycles, so mine was left out, so I figured he was gone.
But he wasn't, and all of the doors and windows had been shut in the house while she was gone.
There's a bathroom and hallway. Straight across the hallway were my children's rooms, and straight back was the master, so all the doors were closed. I went in the bathroom. I'm using the restroom.
That's when he came in.
Oh, you think it's sweet how you talk to me, and just rambling on. And I started explaining, like, it's messed up. I work all these hours, you're here doing nothing. Like, I did everything. You do absolutely nothing. And I come home and you start fussing at me because I asked you to make the bed. And in the middle of me saying that, just he had his arms like across the door, so I didn't see anything in his hands. He had on sweats. I didn't see anything in his pockets. So he had his, spread across the door, and he comes out and he shoots.
He didn't shoot just once.
I fell off the toilet, and I'm just down there, like, he's still talking. I'm just down there like, oh my God, he shot me. Like, what the heck? What is going on? Why is this happening? And I'm just like, ooh, ah, like not crying, not screaming, just kind of in shock.
But there was more to come. In total, he shot her 14 times.
He goes to the living room, he gets a chair from the kitchen table, and he sits in the middle of the hallway. And he starts calling people. He's like, I just messed up. Like, you guys aren't going to see me for a while.
Cheyenne's children were in the house watching and hearing everything happen.
I was trying to get my daughter to climb out of her window to go get help and to get, you know, take her and herself and her little brother, like, get out of here. I didn't know, I knew he had a whole nother clip. I didn't know if he had it in his pocket or what, but I knew there was another one, so I suspected, I really expected to die. Like, I thought that was over. So I just, like, started praying to God, like, just, if I'm gonna go, like, please let me at least say goodbye to all my kids. Just don't let them see me die like this. Like, at least let me make it to the hospital where I could probably say goodbye. And my daughter comes out, my 10-year-old, well, she was 10 at the time. She comes out and she's like, please don't kill her, please don't kill her. And he's like, I'm not gonna kill her, go back in the room, close the door.
Cheyenne could hear sirens in the distance coming her way.
My daughter, she tried to bring me a pillow to lift my head up, but it was just too